This phone call took place on September 14th of 2016 at 9:31 a.m.
Where did these t-shirts come from?
Your mom.
Why did they come from her?
Because she had them in her van. You left them in your van when you used your van.
These are not my shirts. I didn't leave them in her van.
Alright, whatever. Really care at all. Let us take a favor.
I don't want anything from my mom.
Alright, what else do you
I
want?
want her to leave me alone, Carl.
Alright, what else do you want?
Who wrote this? Kevin looked at flashcards of colors and feelings he colored.
I know I can answer that question. She's teacher at the daycare.
Uh-huh.
She keeps a journal of everything he does every day, all the time. It's really cool.
Okay.
If you want to read them.
I read it. Do not send me anything from my mother again. Do you understand?
I promised her, but sure.
Do not send me anything from my mom again. Is that clear?
You said it twice. You can say it the third time?
This phone call took place on September 14th of 2016 at 9:31 a.m. This was around the time, I remember now what happened with this. I was working at a daycare, and my mother and Carl were hanging out. This was after our divorce. My mother decided that she had more to gain from having a relationship with Carl. And of course, my mother would sell me out for a pizza. I mean, if somebody said, I have a pizza here, you can come over to my house and eat and trash your daughter, my mother would have done it in a second, in a heartbeat. She would have much rather done that than actually have a relationship with me. And what happened, the reason why I called about that, those blouses that she sent, is that she had also sent nebulizer medication with it, but I did not have a nebulizer. And my mother knew this. She sent nebulizer medication to me knowing I did not have a nebulizer, and the reason why is because my ex-husband gave her the nebulizer. So they were both withholding a nebulizer that I needed for myself and for Kevin. But it was in hope, and my mother sent the nebulizer medication in hopes that she could lure me back to her. Because she was so abusive, what she wanted was to entrap me so that she could use me to wait on her hand and foot. And she wanted me to drop everything everything I was doing and take in my responsibilities in being a mother to come and take care of her. And I was not going to come and wait on my mother hand and foot. And it was shortly after that I was able to get a recorded admission from my mother that she had drugged me with codeine, a narcotic, when I was a child, so that my father could sexually assault me. And I am going to cover that story in the podcast at a later time. If you are sensitive and you feel that this could trigger you because of PTSD, as I stated earlier, I encourage you not to listen, because this is based on a true crime story. And my ex-husband wanted to use my mother against me, and they both had the same motive of wanting to lure me back around them for God only knows why. And there was absolutely no way in hell that I was going to come around my mother when she was hanging around my ex-husband when he was so abusive, and his mother. My mother was not just hanging around my ex-husband, she was hanging around my ex-mother-in-law. All three of them would get together. And my ex-husband knew that my mother had admitted to drugging me with codeine, a narcotic, so that my father could sexually assault me. And he still allowed her around our kids. Not only did he allow her around our kids, but he allowed her to be alone with our kids. And so did his mother, Bobby Snow. And Carl Edward Anthony said that the reason why he allowed my mother around our kids, despite the fact that he knew what she had admitted to doing to me as a child, he said that he had her around our kids because she was wonderful around our kids. So basically, Carl Edward Anthony thinks that anybody who admits to drugging their daughter so that they can be sexually assaulted by their father is wonderful around our children. This is the type of parenting that Carl Edward Anthony stands behind in raising our boys, is allowing anybody who admits to perpetrating an act of a sexual crime against a child is wonderful around our two boys. I also wanted to add to this podcast that when my ex-husband and my mother withheld the nebulizer from me, that was with the intent to harm me. That is the other reason why I was not going to go around my mother, was because she did want to harm me, and she knew that I had remembered when she had drugged me with codeine, the narcotic, so that my father could sexually assault me, and she probably wanted to attempt to either finish me off or drug me or sedate me again, and there was absolutely no way I was going to give her that opportunity. But Carl Edward Anthony and Grace Dowden did withhold a nebulizer from me with the intent to put me in harm's way, and in the process of doing that, they also put our younger son Kevin in harm's way. There was a retired physician named Dr. David Lanigan who did come to my rescue and give me a nebulizer. He was also willing to write a prescription. He gave me a nebulizer that he and his wife had lying around their home. And that nebulizer kept me out of the hospital, kept me from ending up in the hospital with pneumonia, and also kept my toddler out of the emergency room with for asthma, which he would have also ended up in the hospital as well. This was all so that my ex-husband, with the intent of my ex-husband, his intent, and my mother wanting to put me in harm's way, and in the process of that, they put our younger son in harm's way. My ex-husband is so proud of himself, and this is the same man that has told me repeatedly that he really wishes I didn't exist anymore. The same man that told the court that I am mentally ill. And I just wanted to preface, that's not the right word, but I wanted to follow up with that podcast about the reason why my ex-husband and my mother, what their motive was to harm me. They definitely wanted to get rid of me, and unfortunately for them, they were not successful. I guess they probably should have tried harder, I do say that with sarcasm. I understand that some people might find that disturbing. And it, to some extent, I have become calloused to a lot of this, and I understand to some people it might sound disturbing, but you know, I have to, when it comes to the fact that my ex-husband wishes I were dead, and my mother, the fact that they both had an intent to harm me, you know, I have to have a sense of humor about it, as disturbing as it is. And because they were both very sick people, and they still are. My mother has since passed away. She passed away in 2018, but my ex-husband is still alive, and he is still pretty fucked up because he still enjoys abusing women and children, clearly.